I want to figure out a way for the teachers to understand the students. I have flashbacks of what has happened to me when I was a kid.
I had nightmares a lot, but now as I've gotten older, I've learned how to control them better or just deal with them. I wouldn't say control, more like manage.
Children who live in high poverty neighborhoods are subjected to extreme stress. There are individuals who, because of their poverty, don't know always where they're going to get their next meal or where they're going to have a roof over their head. Unaddressed trauma among school children is the single greatest public health crisis in America today. Trauma is defined as exposure to extreme stress.
What's happening isn't so much one singular event, but something that's called complex trauma, which is sustained, pervasive trauma over a long period of time.
I used to sleep with my mom and dad. I woke up to my dad yelling at my mom, screaming, "I'm done," pointing the gun at her.
I seen somebody get shot in the head. I was like 8. My mom don't even know this. Somebody got shot in the back of the head with a shotgun. It was a horrifying sight, you know. I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
We know that children who have 2 or more episodes of extreme stress are 2.6 times more likely to fail a grade. They're 2 times more likely to be suspended. They're 5 times more likely to have attendance problems. They're 6 times more likely to have behavioral problems.
There are appallingly few resources available in Compton schools in order to provide the support that these children need in order to be able to learn.
My dad was beating us. He had socked my mom in the stomach while she was pregnant with my little sister. And then he was gonna punch her again, and that's where I stepped in and he punched me. I panicked and I called 911, and that's where we were taken from our parents.
Many of them have unstable living situations. They might be homeless. Some of them are in the foster system. And many of them experience pervasive discrimination and racism in their community. Another student, Kimberly Cervantes, experienced homophobia in the school itself.
This girl turns around and looks at me and asks me about my sexual preference. She asked me, "Are you gay?" And I told her, "Yeah, I think so." And then my teacher looks at me and says, "Why would you do that? Why would you be gay?"
As is typical for a student who has experienced that kind of trauma, particularly in the school, Kimberly missed many classes.
One of the kids whom we represent was living homeless on the roof of his school.
I used 4 carpets. I put one to cover for the wind and the cold. And then I used one for where I would lay down, and then one for a pillow.
Compton School District, rather than assisting him, reported him to the police for trespass and suspended him from school. Here's what we know about trauma. Trauma shuts off the brain. It turns off the learning switch.
A student who has experienced a lot of trauma in their lives might have difficulty focusing, difficulty concentrating. A primary response that schools have to trauma is unfortunately to discipline, punish, and exclude children. And that is the worst possible message that schools can send to students.
We're filing the first suit in the history of the country to deal with the fact that there are children who go to school suffering from trauma, and as a result of that, are impeded from learning. What we're asking here is that these children have the same equal educational opportunities as children in other schools. Here's what a trauma-sensitive school does. Instead of saying to the child, "What's wrong with you?" it says to the child, "What happened to you?"
There are different models for what a trauma-sensitive school looks like, but they share core components. The first is that all adults in the school need trauma-sensitive professional development training. Another component is restorative practices, which prevent conflict in the first place and allow students to heal. And then finally, there needs to be mental health support by trained providers on campus. There have been very successful models in Washington State, in San Francisco, and San Diego that have achieved great success and have increased student achievement, have decreased student absences, and have far decreased student behavioral challenges.
The results are astounding. These children are resilient. These children are taught to deal with the trauma, and the academic performance goes up, and their love of learning becomes part of the environment in the school.
Support is somebody that not only just loves you, but actually cares and walk the walk, and not just talk it.
Mr. Curry, he's just the type of person where he's actually gotten to know every single one of his students. I think if teachers were more like Mr. Curry, students would care about their education. You would have a school that actually seemed like a real school.
We're filing this case in Compton, but Compton is not at all the only community facing these challenges.
Dealing with trauma, that's not just a moral imperative, it's a legal imperative. All kids should have a fair chance, and that's what this case is about.
I have a peaceful place, and this peaceful place is when I'm in the mountains and I'm looking up in the stars. I would love to see my school as my peaceful place, where I could be feeling safe, calm, I don't have to worry about anything else. Trauma does affect students. I want to make my school better because I want my kids to go there. And I want my kids to feel safe in that environment.